Wooldridge. I'm the CEO of the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, and thanks for joining for our session today. It's an exciting day with the release of the 2024-25 Gender Equality Scorecard as a result of all the reporting that over 8,000 employers have done to WGEA, representing over 5 million employees. And I want to take the opportunity at the start to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us today, and I know acknowledging country right around our nation as people will be joining from all points. So in terms of the scorecard, it is good news that we continue to make progress, and the results, the reduction of a 0.7 percentage point gender pay gap reduction down to 21.1% is an above trend result, and we're pleased about that. Obviously, we want it to continue. We want the trend to really grow, and we want the numbers to accelerate in terms of the positive change. But we're heading in the right direction, and I think there's a lot to be said for the progress that we're making. Interestingly, the reduction comes from across the board. It's no particular industry, no particular employer type, and that's really positive because the momentum is across the board. We have seen in previous years it's come more from one sector or another, and I think that's reflective of what we're seeing in the results generally, is that more employers are analysing their data, more employers are consulting with employees, more employers are taking action as a result of these inputs. And we see these as necessary first steps to making sure that the plans can be in place, the hotspots identified, and the action taken to make sure that the gender pay gap is closed. So pleased to say that we are very positive about the outcomes, and we'll continue to work to make sure we accelerate that change. Three key things I want to highlight in terms of the opportunities. Firstly, there's no equality if we don't have safety. And this is the second year of reporting on sexual harassment and discrimination in workplaces in a much more comprehensive way. And we continue to see an increase in the policies, the strategies, the processes that are put in place in relation to sexual harassment in particular in the context of positive duty requirements. Where we do see quite a significant gap is the engagement at the most senior levels. So boards are less likely to engage and approve the policies. The data is unlikely to, less likely than CEOs and executives to be reported through. And importantly, we asked a new question this year about reporting against the 7 standards, which is the Australian Human Rights Commission profile for how the positive duty should be approached, and only 15% of employers are reporting to their executive or to their boards in relation to those standards. So progress, but clearly more needs to be done to meet the requirements under positive duty and to make sure our workplaces are both physically and psychologically safe. Secondly, the opportunity we see is to really strive for balance. We have seen small increases, once again positive in terms of our proportion of women at key management personnel, in boards and managers overall. But we still see that 2/3 of employees are working in workplaces that are dominated by one gender or another. We've really got to continue to work to bring the benefits of greater balance across managerial levels, across occupations, and across industries, so that we realise the benefits, and that everyone can participate in roles, occupations, industries, and career opportunities, not limited by their gender, but bringing their full range of skills and capabilities and talents to that context. The third area that we think is really important to focus on is really trying to break down those norms and stereotypes in relation to who does work and who does care. And we've seen once again an uptick in the proportion of primary carers leave taken by men, up to 20% of that leave. This is a 3 percentage point increase, and I think a reflection on the expectations of this generation of parents about a much more equal participation in relation to both care and the work they can do. But we know that when men engage in parental leave, it actually has a fundamental impact, not only for that period of time, but in terms of the ongoing share of unpaid care and work in the home going forward. And obviously it also frees up the capacity for women to be returning to work if they want to or need to, and engaging, obviously, and minimising the time out of the workforce should be what they want. So a whole lot of important messages and priorities in terms of really breaking down that ideal worker norm of available 24/7, always available, typically a man, and who does the caring. So they're the key three themes that I wanted to focus on in terms of the outcomes today, and the things where we think we're making progress, but we do need to do more work to continue to accelerate change. I do want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the team at WGEA. Today's release of the scorecard results is a reflection of 18 months work in terms of the cycle of getting ready for reporting, thousands, as I said, of employers reporting to us and all the work that takes, then collecting the data, analysing the data, getting the insights, and then producing our scorecard report. So I really encourage people to have a look at the scorecard, go through the details. There's a huge amount of information there. We've also published today the employer reports against the 6 gender equality indicators on our Data Explorer. The Data Explorer is such a fabulous resource. You'll be able to look at the individual employers, but also look at industry comparisons, compare, to your peers and competitors, and really encourage people to go to the Data Explorer to see the individual employer reports. That doesn't include the individual gender pay gaps. We'll be publishing them early next year, but everything else on the 6 gender equality indicators are up on the Data Explorer. Now, I'm hoping you've got some questions for me. I'm very happy to do that. Karen's going to help me in terms of filtering the questions and just letting me know what we've got online. But if you've got questions, please put them into the chat, and happy to answer it. Karen, do you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mary. We're still waiting for some of those questions to filter through. But in the meantime, do you think the gender pay gap is closing fast enough?
So we really, the work is happening to try and accelerate change. And as I've said, the 0.7 percentage point reduction is above the 5-year trend. We do know when these reforms that we've been putting in place came into, what the catalyst was, is that the gender pay gap was stalling. So I'm pleased it's in the right direction. I'm pleased we've got momentum, but we want to accelerate that rate of change. We want to close the gap more quickly. Publishing gender pay gaps for employers has been an important step of that, and we've done that twice. We'll be doing that again early next year. And then importantly, next year, the requirement that large employers set and meet gender equality targets, including one that's numeric. So actually not only enhancing the policies and the work that's in place, but also delivering tangible outcomes in terms of whether it's the gender pay gap, whether it's the profile of where people earn, or if it's the composition of the workforce in those different non-manager and manager categories. So we need to accelerate the rate, and we're optimistic that the work is happening and confident that target setting that is coming into place will be an important part of delivering that acceleration. Now, have any other questions come through?
Not yet, Mary, but it's really been a big, very interesting day today. What's the key thing you'd like if you had a magic wand, what's the key thing you'd like employers to focus on next year?
So gender equality is so important, and it's not just for women, it's for everyone. It really can, having an equal and fair and safe workplace is so fundamental to everyone's experience at work. And having a commitment to doing the analysis, to identifying where the gaps are, to listening to your staff, to make sure you're hearing what's happening, what is the experience on the ground, and then putting that all into place to have a plan to make sure you're addressing, where those hotspots, where those gaps are, to deliver a gender equal experience at work is going to be fantastic for your workforce. It's going to be a great outcome for your business as well, and that this is not something that you tack on to the side. It's actually a core part of business. Having capable people in the right roles to deliver a fantastic, whether it's a customer experience or fantastic outcomes, is fundamental to your success, and well worth building in as part of business as usual, investing in for the future, and making sure you've got the team that can deliver really positive outcomes.
That's great. Is there anything you've been particularly surprised by or disappointed by in these findings?
So, Karen, I always want things to happen more quickly, but we know it takes time for the changes, to translate through into those tangible outcomes and results. But every time we see an increase in, women and, more balance at key management personnel and managers, those sorts of things, it's a positive outcome. And across as many employers as we collect information from, that's really tangible for many employees across the board. One really interesting thing is that the gender pay gap tends to increase as you get more senior in an organisation. So, in fact, the highest manager gender pay gap is at the CEO level, where the gender pay gap is over 26%. So, even for CEOs, and we know only 22% of CEOs are women, there's this significant gender pay gap, and that translates to about $185,000 on average differential between what women who are CEOs and what men who are CEOs earn. So it's quite substantial across the board. But what that's a reflection of is it's a reflection of our industries. It's a reflection of some of those historical biases and stereotypes that have come into play. They're the things we need to break down. From the top all the way through the entire workforce, to make sure that people are having that really positive equal experience at work.
Well, the questions have started to filter through, Mary. How does our national gender pay gap compare to other countries, i.e. the UK? Are we doing better in Australia or still behind others?
So it's a good question, and as with all statistics, everyone measures it slightly differently. But on a like-for-like basis, as far as I've been able to tell, we actually perform reasonably well. We're not leading the way, but we are better than average. Now, that's nothing to rest our laurels on, of course, and it has been good to see in the World Economic Forum rankings, which is broader than the gender pay gap, us move up those rankings quite significantly over the last few years, which has been really positive as well. What I do know is, and I'm very proud leading WGEA, is that having the reporting that we have is unique and world-leading. Publishing gender pay gaps, there are a small number of countries around the world that do that, more coming on board, but certainly our new target setting regime is once again world-leading, where there's an expectation of progress and improvement on gender equality in workplaces, and really excited about the impact that's going to have.
Great. I've got a question from Prue. Are there any trends in terms of the 15% of organisations who are adopting the 7 standards for respect at work positive duty obligations, i.e. industries, business size?
And great question, Prue. And you won't be surprised, there's so much data in here that these are the sorts of things that we get the headline information out, and then this enables us to do some further analysis and work over time. So I can't tell you the answer to that question specifically now, but this is exactly the sort of thing we'll be looking into. And also an engagement back through, both the Human Rights Commission and the Respect at Work Council to really say, what can we do to make sure the 7 standards, which is leading practice, which is the expectation, how can we make sure that more companies are utilising that framework for their assessment and evaluation of their performance in this regard?
Great. Shelley's got a question. I'm really interested to know if the team has gathered information or data about workplace flexibility options for workplaces where the majority of roles support 24/7 operations and work directly with clients other than roster options. And if so, where might I be able to find the data, please?
So what I'd suggest is if you know companies that work in that context, have a look on the Data Explorer. So we don't collect information that would enable us to filter on those criteria, but you might know 5 or 10 companies that you want to have a look at in that context. So on the Data Explorer, you can identify individual companies, go in, have a look in this context in relation to flexible work. What are they offering? What are their policies? What's available for their employees? And give you some context in that regard.
Great. And Charlotte has a question. Does the report break down the provision of paid parental leave by sector?
Yes, it does, and it's a great way to look at it in terms of understanding different industries and what the aggregate, what proportion of employers are offering paid parental leave, what type of parental leave that is, what the uptake is. So there's quite a lot of detail that's able to be filtered by industry, but you can also look using the and I always get the ANZIC codes to look at subdivision, group and class as well. So you can break it down in quite some detail and go and have a look at individual employers as well. So plenty of detail there on the Data Explorer to get that context.
Well, it looks like we're running out of time, Mary. I'll leave it to you to say goodbye to everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. And it goes so quickly. Very happy to continue the discussion online. Thanks for your participation and being involved today, coming to our LinkedIn Live. And please, enjoy your reading of the scorecard, go onto the Data Explorer. The data is there to now be used and disseminated and to learn from what's in place and to be a catalyst for change. So the data's, while it's the end of a long process for us, it's the start, hopefully, of a process from here for employers, for the community, to really utilise it to be part of that acceleration of change that we're all seeking. Thanks for coming today. Cheers.